All right, chapter 3, plan of attack. So I was able to survey the rats, and I've noticed that wherever I set the trap, they were able to kind of scale the cinder block walls and try to enter it, not directly, but around it, on top of it, behind it. Because I did have some other traps that were, that were outside the kill box. Okay, so the fact that they can climb and scale the cinder blocks, I noticed that that's a point of entry where they can actually still climb up to the insulation and then chew into the mobile home, or chew through the mobile home insulation and get inside the mobile home and into my walls. Okay, and so what I needed to do was to keep them from climbing and focus them to enter where my traps will be. I don't know if you watched the movie 300, where it was Leonidas from the Greek. He was a king of the Greek Empire, and he was the Persian Empire was attacking and just taking over everything. So Leonidas versus the Persian king, and in order for Persia to invade Greek, they had to go through this narrow strait. The Greeks were completely outnumbered. All he had was 300 of his best soldiers, but because of that narrow strait, he was able to just with a small amount of people, take out so much of the Persian king's army coming at him, because they weren't going at him in all different directions until later on. But in the beginning, they forced them to come through a narrow strait where we can actually attack them, and where they were strong and they can only face 300 people at a time instead of facing 300 versus 1,000. It's a narrow strait, so it gave them that advantage. So with that same analogy, we have a lot of rats that are coming at us from different places and different angles, and they're able to scale up all our cinder blocks and just go in and just ransack and destroy everything, right? And so what we need to do was to secure all the cinder blocks that the mobile home is sitting on. And what I did was I used clear tape, 3-inch clear tape, to wrap every single cinder block. Now it took me many days, and I just did maybe 1 to 2 a day, and maybe took a week break and maybe did 5 and then did another 5 later on. But I'd say it took me a good month to secure all the cinder blocks that was holding up the mobile home, or at least all the pillars. But when I finally did secure everything, then it was my day to win. Okay, and so what I did was I forced them to go to all the low points of the mobile home, and the low points of the mobile home is on one end of the mobile home, and the other end was pretty high. But I knew that they couldn't scale that. But there were some straps, some anchor straps that they could have climbed on, and so I made sure those were secure too, that they wouldn't be able to get past, and it forces them to go towards the lower end. And so when they went towards the lower end, they were then met with my sticky traps. Okay, because these were the smaller ones. They were able to kind of jump off the other end. Now on the other end, I had these I-beams on the ground, which they were used previously to lift the mobile home, and they were on wheels, and they were on a trailer, I guess. But all they did was they dropped it, and it's just sitting there underneath, acting as an extra lever, or an extra step that would help them jump onto it and then get to the top, the bottom, the lower end of the mobile home. And so if you are putting a new mobile home in, I would recommend that you remove this trailer piece so that it gives the rats a harder time to get up, and they can't just jump that high, and then they'll have to go down further towards the lower end in order to get up. So I have 4 points of entry. They can get up because of this trailer piece, and at the lower end, and then still climb through. Okay, and so this is the lower end of the part. They were able to kind of just jump up. I don't know. They're just really good jumpers, I guess. But they were able to make it, or they either made it through my with the trailer end piece, and then went towards that. I think that seems like that's what they did, because it looks like they're at the other end of the trap. Okay. So this here is like the point of entry. So I put a little trap there. You might have to tape the trap down, because they will knock the trap off. And once they get off, then the rest can then use that ledge to get onto the mobile home And then after that, they're just chewing up pipes, and which we did have a pipe burst on us. They chewed it up, and it was not cool, because once the insulation gets wet and it's sealed, you have to really either go in and cut it and pull everything off and make sure it's aired out. Otherwise, mold starts to grow and all kinds of weird stuff, right? So it's just a disaster once they get in and get into that water source. Okay. And so once we were able to secure and force them to come to one point, I was then able to get sticky traps and put them where they need to be. Now, because I opened myself to 8 additional points that they can come in at, each cinder block actually has 2 sides to it. You know, the 2 sides of the beam. The beam's going to sit on the cinder block. It's going to have a rail on the left and the right side of that cinder block. Okay. So you need to be able to secure and put a sticky trap on both sides, and it's kind of rocky. You can kind of knock it off, so you have to tape it onto the I-beam and onto the cinder block so that the rats can't just budge it and just push it off. Okay, and so with that, there's 4 I-beams on my double wide, and so each I-beam needs 2 traps, so that's 8 traps total. And if you have the other end that you need to secure too, which I do, because of this trailer piece, I now have 16 traps I need to put in order to make sure that they can't get through in the lower end, and then they can't get through the other end where the trailer piece is helping them get up. Okay, so I realized that I was like, yeah, that's a lot of traps, and these traps are expensive. They're like, you know, $5 for 2. And so you're looking at 20, 40, 60, 80, 25, 10, 15, 20. So I need $40 to kind of get my 16 whatever piece in. And I did find that on Amazon you can get it for a lot cheaper. You can get 12 of them for about $22 or something like that. And so now I have more than enough that I need to trap them, and also monitor and then replenish those traps as they get trapped over time. Because as you know, they put their fur on there, and all I did was I pulled them off and kind of reset it that way. But eventually it's gonna wear out, and all that fur is gonna keep from being sticky again, and then they're probably gonna eventually get through. So that's what we have so far as the best way to secure this trap and keeping them from climbing. As soon as they get up there, you know, there's this horizontal beam where any of the insulation is touching closely. These are also points of entry where they can chew in and get into the mobile home that way too. So, but they need to get on top of here first and not on top of the other end. And I realized that when I first started, I was like, oh man, I don't think I have enough traps. But you'll realize that you have more resources than the rats have resources, right? They can't go to the store and buy a ladder or whatever and scale it. You have the resources to buy more traps as you need to secure all the low entry points to make sure that you can win against these rats. Okay. And also, if you have a compost or whatever that's attracting rats, make sure you take those away. Any food source that could be lying around. And we had an open compost at one point, and we decided that, hey, the rat damage and it just wasn't worth the compost. We weren't really getting much from the compost at the end of the day, so we kind of stopped composting. All right.